A pride of lions surrounded the tethered horse. But what happened next is simply shocking. The scorching sun mercilessly scorched the burnt plains of the African savanna. The wind, filled with dust and dry heat, swept over the withered grasses like the whisper of an ancient prophecy. Beneath a gnarled baobab, whose roots looked like the frozen claws of time, stood a sight capable of breaking even the hardest heart. A stallion, once a proud and free dweller of the savanna, was now broken. His body trembled from exhaustion, his legs barely holding him up. His eyes, once full of fire and spirit, had darkened with pain. Each breath sent a shiver through his emaciated frame, the air tearing from his throat as if scraped by the thorns of despair. Above him, the sun tilted toward the horizon, painting the savanna in dull gold, as if nature itself mourned what was about to occur. Beneath the stallion's hooves lay cracked, blood-stained earth. It had become a silent witness to a life slipping away. His gaze, clouded but still defiant, scanned the horizon where nothing remained but the shimmering heat. Only the dry wind answered his silent pleas. Not far away stood a man, tall, sunburned, his face hidden by a cloth. His eyes were cold, reflecting the cruelty of the sands. He was a herder, Chakwe, who had long forgotten what compassion meant. He cast a blank glance at the stallion. The decision was already made. "The weak don't deserve a second chance," he muttered, tying a thick leather rope to the crooked baobab. The knot was tight, merciless, not just restraining, but erasing any hope of escape. The rope dug into the stallion's neck like a noose of betrayal. This wasn't restraint. It was a sentence. Chakwe turned away without a backward glance, leaving the animal alone with fate. Darkness thickened, and with it, the savanna came alive. Somewhere beyond the dry bushes, shadows stirred. Soon, amber eyes lit up in the undergrowth. First a pair, then another, and another. They were lions, the hunters of the savanna, moving silently, gracefully, with the innate confidence of apex predators. They smelled blood. They sensed the fear carried by the wind. The air grew thick with the weight of looming disaster. Even the acacias seemed bowed before the coming storm. The pride slowly surrounded the stallion. They moved in unison, like shadows given form. Night was no longer a veil. It became the breath of predators. The stallion's instincts flared anew. His broken, tormented body lunged forward, craving freedom, craving life. But the leather strap only cut deeper into his neck. Tears of pain and dust streamed down his face. His hooves tore at the earth, leaving jagged marks of desperation. Again and again he tried to break free, but all in vain. The lions drew closer. Their breath turned to mist in the cool night air, and their eyes sparkled, not just with hunger, but with bloodlust. One lion, a massive male, stepped out from the pride. His mane flowed in the wind, and in his eyes blazed the certainty of a killer. He knew victory was near. The stallion, trembling yet unbroken, made one final lunge. His breath was ragged, his body depleted, but his spirit had not died. He prayed, not for rescue, but for a miracle. Once, he had galloped across the savanna, free, like the embodiment of the wind. His mane had gleamed against the sunset sky, his hooves barely touching the earth, as if he were flying. People looked at him and whispered, "He is the spirit of the savanna." But even spirits can be brought down. His fall began with a slight limp, barely noticeable. Then came the pain, growing stronger each day. Chakwe tried to treat him, ointments, poultices, healers. But patience dried up, like moisture under the sun. One day, after seeing the stallion collapse again, Chakwe decided, there's no use in a broken animal. Let him become food for the lions. That very day, the noose was tightened, The baobab became his prison. But beyond the horizon, a flicker of hope still lingered. And it arrived. First, a faint sound, hoofbeats, then a figure cutting through the night. A woman. Her name was Kalima. She was a veterinarian, a traveler, the daughter of a tribe that believed every creature deserves a second chance. Her eyes burned with resolve. Her heart knew. She couldn't let him die. The lions tensed as they sensed her approach. Without hesitation, Kalima rode her loyal horse straight into the center of the circle. "Back!" she shouted, her voice echoing across the plain. The lions growled, but didn't retreat. They were too hungry. Kalima didn't flinch. She leapt from her horse and ran to the stallion. Her hands worked frantically on the knot. But the strap was tight. The lions crept closer. One of them crouched, ready to pounce. At that moment, Kalima drew a knife. She knew there was no time. Not for fear, not for mistakes. The cold blade cut into her palm as she forced it into the strap. The lions roared. One more step, and they'd attack. But with one final tug, the strap snapped. The stallion was free. His legs trembled, his body sagged, but he was no longer bound. Kalima stood between him and the lions. She grabbed a dry branch and waved it. The lions snarled in response, but hesitated. Their leader stepped forward. Kalima met his gaze. No fear, no doubt. He knew. This woman was ready to fight. And at that moment, the stallion took a step, then another. She jumped onto her horse, tugged at the reins, and he followed. They galloped away. A furious roar echoed behind them. But the lions did not pursue. Their prey was gone. They had lost. Kalima brought the stallion to a village clinic at the foot of the hills. The vet, an old woman named Dr. Nira, cared for him. His body was healed by bandages and medicine, but the soul needed something else. Kalima stayed. She spoke to him, whispered stories about freedom, about the grass beneath his hooves, about the wind that would once again carry his mane. Day by day, he began to believe. He stood again, his gait grew stronger, and a spark returned to his eyes. One day, he met her gaze without fear. He stepped forward, touched her hand, and Kalima understood. He had returned. Not just in body, his spirit had returned too. That morning, as the sun once again bathed the savanna in gold, she led him out onto the plain. He stood still. Then, he bolted into a run. The earth trembled beneath his hooves. He was once again the master of the savanna. Free, proud, alive. Kalima watched him go. And she knew. She had healed too. He was not just a rescued horse. He had become a symbol, a monument to faith and resilience. And her voice rang out in the silence of the savanna. Sometimes all it takes is a chance. One chance to change everything. Dear viewers, what do you think of this story? Please tell us in the comments. And if you liked this video, give it a like and subscribe to our channel. See you next time.